does bring us to our question segment. So we like to try our best at giving some dating advice to all these questions that get emailed and DM'd to us. And this is a question that was sent in by a few people, so I'm going to try to consolidate. I've been virtually seeing someone during COVID, and now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we're about to have more in-person dates, and I like to progress this relationship forward. How do I have the DTR conversation, define the relationship conversation, coming out of COVID and knowing that most of our relationship has been virtual?
Interesting. I'm so mixed on the DTR convo. Very mixed on it. I don't know. My personal experience, I haven't really had them that often. They've kind of just naturally become that. And it got to the point where it was so obvious that it was an exclusive relationship. And it was kind of like, oh, you're my girlfriend, right? Like it's basically been that way. Personally, I'm not a huge DTR person, but if people feel the need to DTR, then I think it's really coming from like, is this going to make you feel more secure on it? Or like maybe the first step is like, why do you need to DTR? Maybe that is the first question that you need to ask yourself. Like, is it that you feel like you need a DTR because that's the thing to do? Is it that you feel insecure? Is it that you want to like maintain COVID safety still? Because I think there's nothing wrong with saying like, if we're going to like sleep together, I want to make sure that like you're not sleeping with other people. But I think that's different than even DTRing. I think that's just like a precaution in a way. The whole virtual to non-virtual is very interesting to me.
Very tricky.
Personally, I don't believe, like, I might offend some people by saying this, but even if you've been talking for like months and months virtually, I don't know if you've actually had a first date yet. I think like every situation is different, so maybe it will just like automatically translate into that, but I just don't know if you can make that assumption until you do it. So I would probably suggest to just have that first date and not have the DTR conversation and see how it flows. And then if things are just like naturally like at the speed of whatever you were doing virtually, then you can start to bring it up as things progress more in person.
I'm just going to take a wild guess here, but I think these questions stem from our obsession with counting the number of dates that equates to some sort of definition of a relationship. What I mean is, we hear this from so many people. Oh, we've been seeing each other for 6 months. Well, no, like that's not actually a measurement of like the longevity of your relationship. Or we've been on 8 dates. Well, 8 virtual dates where you didn't talk about anything deeper doesn't actually equate to 8 dates. So throw away the number. I think that's first and foremost. I think what's more important than a DTR is a DTP. Define the progression.
Yes, love it.
I think ultimately with the DTR, what we want to hear is we want to take this relationship to the next level. And that doesn't need to be like, are we monogamous? Are we exclusive? Are we boyfriend, girlfriend? Are we girlfriend, girlfriend? Are we boyfriend, boyfriend? Who cares? The label does not matter. It's about the progression. I really enjoyed our virtual dates during the pandemic. Now we can hang out in person. Would you be open to hanging out more in person per week? Would you be open to taking a weekend trip? That's progression. So I'm a big fan of the DTP. I also feel like, same with you, Julie, the virtual dates, they shouldn't be called dates. I think it's a misnomer. We can't label them as that. They are meet and greets. They are friendly calls. They're hangout sessions, but they're not really dates. And so let's just not count it as that. It's really hard to go from like so much virtual meetups to like in person and all of a sudden just feel like it translates over.
I mean, it definitely can. Like, I'm just looking at, like, even our sounding board members, right? Like, when I met Jason, well, I'd met Jason before, but when I met Caitlin and some of the other folks, like, the other week when we surprised people, it did feel like we had known them for a very long time. But I think there wasn't an expectation there. Like, you know, like, it's a little different. I think when you're going in from virtual dating to now we're meeting in person and we're going to be, like, we're going to be together, it's going to be official, that's a lot of pressure and expectation when you haven't even like seen how you vibe in real life.
Can I just say a confession right now? I was a little nervous meeting our sounding board members the other week because I didn't know it was going to be awkward. And that's why I told Julie, I was like, as soon as we say hi, we say bye, because I hate lingering and like the awkward silence. Thank God there was none of that because everyone was super cool and we jived well. But I think that also can happen in dating too. You could jive so well over video, and then in person it's like, awkward silence. What do I say next? And then I don't know. I get really nervous about that.
Yeah, I think just take each date at a time and just like see what you unfold. And also the other side of, I think why I personally don't like DTR is that like I want to also feel like I'm like in it with someone and not making this like call too early to like define something before I actually even know them to the fullest.
Yes, so like Gisela.
Yes, exactly.
That was her full story.
It's like, you know, it's just enjoy the moment. I think like so much we're overthinking, trying to put labels on things. Like by no means am I saying you should date someone for like years and years and never have a conversation of what you are. But I think going from a virtual date to an in-person does not need to have this conversation.